Hey, beautiful people, just finishing up consulting for the day, and I felt this really beautiful nudge to hop on here and to share all of which that is moving, all of which that I have been feeling, all of which I have been writing and crafting in the last few days. Not all wanderers are lost. Something about that, I in my early 20s, I literally left everything behind. I was made redundant and I literally left everything behind. I packed a rucksack and I took off into the Scottish Highlands, into deep wilderness, deep into the mountains in my early 20s. And you kind of move into that experience as one person and you leave it as another, but it was so powerful because it absolutely does alchemize you into the here and now. So when we say, spirits say, some are creating themselves without attachment to the past or anticipation to the future, you kind of throw yourself into the present and you throw yourself into the heart of the universe. And I know that that sounds like a huge statement, but it's absolutely true. You kind of hand so much of yourself over, and that is a really powerful place to be. And it does really deeply alchemize you, I went through, some of you know this story, I went through a powerful rite of passage during that experience, like being in that sort of landscape, being in those mountains for around 2.5 months, at times not seeing people for I think 9 or 10 days at one point in time. That's absolutely huge. And you kind of meet your past and you kind of like immerse yourself deeply in it, and then you kind of meet all those aspects and you begin to alchemize them, and then you kind of are thrown into the now, and you kind of like your relationship to the future begins to dissolve. It's not like you don't look to the future, but there's something in you that becomes more present in the now, and that's really powerful. So as I kind of look and seeing that great night light in the sky, which was humanity's first calendar, by the way, as we approach May's flower moon, I've been wandering those tracks amongst those hedgerows and those trees, just kind of listening into the dream lines, something spirit called the dream lines, which is very similar to the song lines, but it's like those dream lines, those liminal places where you meet the unseen, you meet the seen and the unseen, where the ordinary and extraordinary rest in each other's arms. Absolutely love that. So I've been exploring the land as I once did as a child, with that curious spark in my eyes, which is kind of like, really feeling into those liminal places, feeling into the ley lines, feeling where the stories are within the landscape, dreaming those stories into being, rooted into wider community, weaving storytelling and consulting and rune insights, which runes have been there ever since I returned from Scotland. During my pilgrimage there in Scotland, the runes appeared literally on standing stones. Storytelling, consulting, rune insights is a timeless art that has the power to captivate, to inspire, and transport us to different worlds. That is the magic of consulting and storytelling and runes and wandering the landscape. For me, storytelling is an extension of consultations. After all, we become the stories we have lived. Spirit illuminating those medicine pieces of our lives. And when we sit together around a fire, under the canopy of a large oak tree, under the starlight, or even in the heart of the day, we sitting together, we hold the medicine pieces for each other. Really powerful. You know, living, breathing stories, you know, and losing ourselves in the layers of the woodland, the layers of our own history, our own story, meeting the seen and the unseen, the trees and their deep presence, starlight, moonlight, and even heavy rain, or there beside a fire. You know, I think it's a really powerful archetype that moves through us. And I remember, you know, when I wandered that Scottish wilderness there in my early 20s, when I was really able to do such a thing, is that I could feel that archetype with a staff, wide brimmed hat, ravens flying. It's a powerful archetype, the gypsy, the nomad, a travelling storyteller, and it's whispered to me all of my life. And what if I told you none of it was accidental? You know, my thoughts have drifted back to that rite of passage there in my early 20s, where I was made redundant. I literally left it all behind, packed that rucksack and headed out alone across that landscape. 2.5 months in wilderness, pilgrimage and vision quest. And I've cycled across this country in every direction possible, wandered far and wide. There's a theme. Can you spot it? You know, can you spot it? There's a theme. And that's a beautiful elder, Natasha, who runs these wilderness immersive experience deep within the wilderness. She says this, and I just thought, do you know what? It gave me goosebumps, and it spoke so deeply to me. Whatever it is that we long for, we must be willing to turn towards the dead wood in our lives and see it as just that, with the understanding that we must leave it behind if we are to grow and evolve. These dying to and rebirthing phases are as natural as life itself. To undertake a rite of initiation is to work very deeply, to lean into the nature of death and rebirth as cycles, when the old is no longer sustainable and the new might not yet be in sight. This often evolves dying to your familiar way of belonging to the world, reconnecting to the wisdom and passion of your soul, and rediscovering your medicine. This tracking of your medicine, what might be called your true nature and soul purpose, is both your deepest inheritance and the greatest contribution you can offer your family and community. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? We live in a time of radical truth, you know, we live in a time of radical responsibility and radical compassion, yet in a raw, wild way, something that happens with such grace and yet force within my consultations. So very often I am recommended within my work, and people will say, sure, go and sit with Shane, yet only go if you're ready to hear the truth. I'm so deeply honoured to weave this work in this world.